Hi, I'm Ray. I'm doing a DIY work on my 2004 Kia Sorento. Today I'm going to attempt to remove the valve cover gaskets. Along with that, I'm going to replace the spark plug wires and some hoses in the back of the engine. I figured I'd do this tape because I have been online and have not found a good video to show or to watch, so I figured I'd videotape as I go along. You see in the engine that I've already taken out the reservoir. That was easy. These two screws here, and then there was a screw right here that I took out. I also took out the inlet hose and filter adapter. Disconnected this cable. I also disconnected these few hoses. Two of these went to the reservoir. This little hose went into the side of the plenum. So today we're going to be taking the intake manifold off. Looks like we'll be taking these bolts out, this bolt here. I'm going to take these bolts out here or on this bracket. We're also going to take this bolt out here and also the bolt back here. And as you can see, on top of the engine, there's a number of things we got to deal with to take this off. And I will walk through all of the items that I do as I take them off, just to give you an idea of what all is taken. All has to be done. Just a note, this hose is one of the hoses I need to remove. The Y joint in the back is leaking. To get it off, I do need to take off the intake manifold. Since I was taking that off, I figured I was going to do the valve cover since they are leaking, and I wanted to get that done. And also, since the spark plug wires are underneath there, I'm going to replace the wires. I am not going to replace not the transformers, but the other side. The other three spark plugs have the modules on top of them. It was too expensive to buy a whole set of those. About $220, $230 per unit at Kia, and I decided I wasn't going to go that far. Anyways, I'll start up again here in a little bit and as I move things forward. Okay, so we're getting ready to start. It looks like I've got to pull all of this off to get to the intake manifold. So that's what I'm going to be starting with, trying to figure out all the little things I need to take off of the engine. Obviously all of this plastic is disintegrating as I touch it, so I'm probably going to have to buy some of that to replace. So I'm going to start up here, taking these brackets off. Try to make sure they're all the right size so I know where they go. Looks like all of these have 7s on it. I'm hoping that means they're the same length. So far, they are. I'm going to mark this with the marker so I know where it's at. So this one. probably taken off more than I need to, but I don't want to have to come back at this again. And again, every one of these so far have had a 7 on it, which I'm thinking that maybe they're 7mm. They seem to all be the same length. And you can scoot over here and just show that. Okay, I got these on. This little bracket here on. Kind of disappointed that it takes so much to get this thing apart for what seems to be some simple things. Okay, now I'm going to disconnect some of these cables. Jeez, this stuff is just breaking in my fingers. Got this one off. Got this one off. Looks like those are the only two I can get off of here. This bracket is actually held on with this hose. This one, probably going to just take the sensor off. This is some type of sensor on top of the engine. I'm just going to disconnect this. Now, these last two are longer than the other grouping, so I'm just going to put them back in so I don't get them messed up. Okay, those are back in there. Okay, looks like I need to take off a few of these hoses. There's one. Trying to get these twisted. They're pretty dried on there. Here it comes. Okay, that one's off. And let's see what we have to do here. That whole thing. This stuff here is part of the throttle body. There's a lot of crap on there. Let's see how this looks like it'll pop off if I slide it off this way. Just a note, if you look, this is slotted and I just slipped it off of that. And get to the The other cable kind of slides in around this, and you can see I can just slide that out. Okay, so now my cables are off. Looks like I got one more screw up here. Again, this looks to be the same as the other screws, so I can just leave that off. I'll take this and I'm going to flop it back over here. It's one thing I didn't do that I want to do now. I want to take the negative terminal off, since I don't want to cause any issues. There we go. Just going to tuck that down on the side. So, first grouping of stuff disconnected. Looks like I got to get this back bracket off. Take a few of these sensors off here. Got this one off. Looks like it. I'll have to look at that one a little further for whatever reason. I'll grab a smaller screwdriver, figuring I would. There. Okay. Okay, looks like this part I'm going to have to take off, so I'm just going to grab it and take it off at this point. I'm going to probably replace some of these vacuum hoses. They're getting pretty dried out and gnarly. Matter of fact, this one's got a crack in it. You can see this one, there's a little crack in it. We'll be replacing that. Okay, I'm also gonna pull this little clip out. And it's freed up. I'm gonna take these connections off. Okay, these look like they're keyed, so I can't get them screwed up. So that's a good thing. So almost the whole harness here is disconnected. You can see we got one bracket back here on, looks like some type of ground. And I'm going to disconnect that ground and put the screw back in. Take that off. Put the screw back in its spot so I don't lose it. Since I need to get all the way in the back here to remove the hoses, I want to pretty much get rid of everything that's going to be in my way. This bracket, for whatever reason, doesn't have a screw on it or a bolt. There's another one back here I'm going to have to free up to be able to get the valve cover off anyways. And you can see this stuff is deteriorating quite a bit. Go ahead and take that off. Take this one off, different size. Start getting these brackets off. These all look like they're 12 instead of 10 millimeter. Looks like this one could be a knuckle buster. could use my 3/8 inch socket set, but there's a lot of tight spots that the 3/8 sockets won't really fit into. So that's why I'm using my small one. Seems to be working all right so far. Removing this bracket section off the back here. And I'll put the bolts back in so I don't lose them or get them out of position. I found I was working on another vehicle and I wasn't paying attention to the lengths of the screws or the bolts, and I ended up putting one in the wrong spot, causing me to redo the job twice, which was not pleasant since it was a full tear down. So there's another hose back here that looks like it's attached to this also that I'm going to try to remove. It's just in a terrible position. I pre-marked some of these screws so I could get them back in the right spot. And I also marked where it goes, the number 1 here. So upgraded to my 3/4 inch or 3/8 inch drive because it's getting a little hard to get some of these off. Careful on that one, that'll be a knuckle buster. This was number 2. Fortunately, I can't put these back in. Good thing is they're the same size so far. I think I'm going to have to take this intake off also. Right here, these 4 bolts. Problem is it's got more cables and hoses on it and cause even more problems. You still taping? Mm-hmm. Okay, that was the same. Now notice that there's this little plug here. You see that? I'm probably going to have to replace that. It's pretty loose. I'm going to go ahead and pull. I did buy all of the gaskets. And excuse me if I call something not correct. I don't know all the terms for everything. I do know I was a little disappointed that there wasn't any videos on this. Everything that I saw was already taken apart. There's the first one. That came out of the bottom. I'm going to try to keep them in order just until I see if there's a difference in lengths. Looks like there's lock washers on there. 2 bottom ones are the same length. The top one left is the same length, so I'm hoping that all of these will be the same length. Okay, they're all the same length. That's a good thing. And I'm gonna pull this off, just if I can get it off without breaking it. There we go. Put that over. I'm get a picture of this here because this is where the gas goes in. Get a video of that in there. So you can see this direction. You can see down here. There's another plug on this. And again, I removed this bolt here. And so far, everything in the back And I'm going to work my way around the front of the engine now. I'll have to take this bracket off also, just because I'm going all the way down to the valve covers, so that'll be in the way. It's a little different. It's got a lock washer on it instead of a flange. So I'm going to go ahead and put those back in once I'm going to take this whole bracket off, get it out of the way. There's something that seems to be under here that I'm going to have to deal with. Those two were the same length. That is also the same length. Sorry for my commentary, but if you can get through it, at least it'll show you the steps that I had to take to get this thing apart.
And you dropped it. It is on.
It'll make me walk all the way down through here to loosen these up. I guess I'm going to have to take this off anyways. So far, oh, whoops, now this one's a long one. Look at the point here. Notice this one was longer than any of the ones that I took out that are this size. Make sure that that gets back in there correctly. I think that's because it had to go through the plastic and into the valve cover. My concern is all of these hoses seem to be very brittle, and I'll probably end up breaking most of them.
You've broken.
I have to replace a bunch of them.
How do you replace that?
This one also is a long one. I'm going to check and see if it's the same length. It is the same length as the previous one. Okay, so this is loose. This is loose. And now scoop this out of the way. Put this over here. Okay, let's pause. Okay, I'm removing this hose to get this piece out of the way. I'm going to set this aside. Again, you can see. Okay, I'm going to blow off all the broken housings or wire stuff here. These bolts off on top. So we're going to take this off. It looks like this bracket's got to come off. We'll see how it goes. So again, so far these have all been the same, except the ones in the front here have had the lock washers on them. So I'm going to put the ones with the lock washers back in their position so I don't mess that up. there's this, come on to this side. There's this vacuum over here. Right in here where I'm looking. And see this vacuum device here? There's a little mechanism there that seems to go into the plenum. I'm going to leave that attached. I'm just going to disconnect the hose that goes to it when I pull it out. So I just wanted you to see what I'm talking about. It can come off, but I'm not sure what I'd have to do there. Until it comes off, I'm not going to mess with it. Take this bracket off. It's just holding the harness back here. Looks like the one holding the other part of the intake manifold is already disconnected. This one also has a lock washer on it. It is the same length as the other ones, but it did have a lock washer. And this bracket just came down. So getting pretty close to having this all apart. Trying to reach down here and see what else is possibly connected to the engine. Seems to be a hose back here, but I'm not sure exactly. Looks like another vacuum hose on the side. I'm taking these bolts off here. There's one bolt that goes the entire length of this. So I'm taking the nut off. This one's a little different. I've heard I might have to remove this, and the only way to remove it is double nutting it and to take it off. We'll see how it goes. These are very long. I'm going to check to make sure all the lengths are the same. Set these here for now. It looks to be about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these. And I thank my daughter for helping me with this. She's going to get some benefit out of this because it's going to free up a car so she can drive.
Woo!
I'm getting her license possibly tomorrow. We'll see how it goes.
Would you take this car to work?
Okay, I got all those loosened. We'll see how, if they're all the same length. And they're not.
Woo!
So, these up on this side seem to be longer than the ones on the lower side. Let's see how they look. See if these two are the same. The two uppers are the same. I'm going to check on the lowers, make sure. Okay, that's the same as the front one. And let's see about this back one. And the back one's the same length. Okay, so that's good to know. And I'm seeing this is loose now. Doesn't feel to be loose. Oh, I see one right here. Missed one. So remove this. Looks like I'm probably going to have to take this whole bracket off because it's on top of the plenum. So I'll end up taking the whole bracket off, get it out of the way. Again, this has a lock washer on it. It is the same length. This also has a lock washer. It is the same length. And again, doing this video twofold. One, I couldn't find anything online for it. Two, I wanted to see what I needed to do to put this thing back together. And that one is the same length. There's the bracket coming off. Okay, now ouch. Well, there goes my glove, as you can see. Okay, that seems to be out of the way. That's loose. That's loose. I'm gonna have to climb up and see if there's something on the back of the engine. So, see right here, there's a vacuum hose. I'm pulling it off. Can you see it? Mm-hmm. I'm gonna pull that one off. There's also another bracket in the back I'm gonna have to get to. I'm gonna probably need my small socket to do that.
Don't fall.
I've been told some of these are a pain, and this one's gonna be one of those.
Yeah.
There goes the wrench. Pause it. Ended up having to wrestle this bracket off so I can get to the bolt that's behind on this back side. It's equivalent to this nut that I had to take off here. There's one on the back. That's what's holding me up. This was probably by far going to be the biggest pain, just not dropping it behind the engine. Okay, the nut is off. Checking for, looks like a lock washer on the back side. I didn't have any washer on the front, but it seems to, let's see if that loosened it all up. There we go. So that is all loose, ready to come out. It's just going to be snaking it through. This wire harness is probably going to be the most painful part. Getting it over this bolt on both the back and the front isn't going to be very simple. I can tell that right now, because I got to come up almost 4 inches to get that off. This around the back. Push it down out of the way. I'm not breaking anything.
What was that?
I just broke the dipstick handle, not realizing I was leaning on it. So this is the part where people are saying that it's painful, and they are correct. I don't know how I'm going to get that up and off. Looks like I'm going to definitely have to take these bolts out of here and hit this flange. Now, these two were different lengths. The short one went in the upper, and the longer one went in the lower. I'm going to bag these two up. gives me enough clearance to get it out. I'm going to take this rubber piece off underneath there. There's little clips. I'm going to take and lift that top plastic, loosen it up so I can get that up. There's these little plastic clips. You unscrew them, pop them up. This whole plastic piece will come right off, or at least get out of the way so I can lift the thing out. You might have to take off a wiper. Oh well. Here. I like these a little bit better than the ones you get on the Honda. They snap off, but they kind of break a lot. Tend to have to push them a little bit. The threads can wear out on these. Okay.
There's one over there.
Hopefully I'll have time to edit this so there's not a lot of time to be unscrewing things. Go ahead, Todd. Okay, I'm just taking this right out of the car. And down in the back here. Okay, now I'm going to try to lift it off again.
Whoa!
And now I got the thing off. I'm taking this hose off. Picture of that. Okay, pop. And disconnect this. And disconnect this. Where's the button? Here. Okay. Get those out of the way. I do want to tuck this up behind this, so I'm going to take this cable off also. Some of these are painfully hard to unclip them. Where's my screwdriver? I'm ready to take this off the bracket. I'm disconnecting that. Just want to kind of move this out of the way. Removing this bracket down below.
Okay, so we will remove that from the right side of the engine.
It's off. This went to the back side of the manifold. And I'm taking it off right here. Get it out of my way. and slide it out. That's what it looks like. Pause. Get it? I'm taking this hose off. It seems to be a cross connect hose to the other valve cover. Taking them both off. You see it? Taking this off. That went between the two valve cover valve covers.
It's on.
Okay, I decided to get rid of this flange. The thing is I gotta take off the bracket for the windshield wipers. Seems like a pain in the butt. It is, but to get it out of the way, I've got to be able to get down in there to get this hose off, and this seems to be in my way. So, screws to take it off. I forgot to take it off and deal with the consequences afterwards. Okay, I ended up taking off the windshield wiper motor and then this plate that was back here. There was some double-sided foam tape on it that was holding it pretty tight. I just took just scraped it basically all the way off. Came off relatively easy, and now I've got access down below here to get these hoses off. I'll show you real quick how much of a pain in the butt this is back here. I don't know if you can see that. That's where the hoses go. And it is a pain to get in there to get those. It goes up to there and then to the reservoir that's going to be over there. So it's getting a little dark out here. So it's getting harder and harder to see. But I wanted to show whatever I could of this. So that's what's underneath there. Okay, day 2. We ended once it got dark last night. Day 2, we're going to start by summarizing some of the stuff we did yesterday. Yesterday when I pulled this, I pulled the fuel line off to get to the hoses back here. Can you get right in there? Notice the clip broke, so I'm having to go to the dealership to buy another one. They got it on order. I'll pick it up tomorrow. And as you can see, I took off this whole back panel where the wiper was mounted, and I had to replace these 2 radiator hoses. And I bought a bunch of this plastic corrugated stuff to recover this. A lot of the corrugation is just dry rotted right off, so I'll put some new ones on. But today we're going to go ahead and take the covers off to get to the spark plugs. We're also going to take the valve covers off to be able to replace the valve cover gaskets. So that's where we're starting. Take this bracket off to get it out of the way. It's a single bolt. I'll put it back on after the fact. Pause. Okay, we jump to this side of the engine. We're having to take this bracket off that is holding these cables, 2 bolts down below here, to get it out of the way so I can get the screw out that was right here. I'm also disconnecting this cable to get it out. Okay, so you can see the coils. There's 3 coils for the vehicle, and then you see these additional wires here. Those go to the other 3 cylinders on the other side. We're gonna have to pull these out to replace the spark plugs. While I got them out, I'm also gonna be pulling the valve covers off to replace the gasket. I disconnected this. Again, this is a little bit of a painful part, but it is what it is. We're gonna do it. Awesome. You can see I pulled off all of the coils. I've marked them so I can put them back in. The cable has been removed, and I'm tucking that out of the way. And the 3 cables that go to the other side, tucking those away. I marked both ends of these so I can put them back in. Now it looks like I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 bolts I need to pull out to get the head off. That's what I'm going to attempt next. So that'd be what I'll do. Okay, we're getting ready to work on the left side manifold, or the valve cover gasket. We're having to take this little bracket off and the screw here, along with the one that we just took off here. Hopefully I'm not going to have to move the power steering pump. Awesome. Okay, so we went to take all the bolts out of this, and you can see there's a bunch of bolts all the way across, 3, and then 3 here, plus 1 way over, plus 3 at the top right here. But there was one underneath this plastic thing. You can see I just drilled a hole in it, and there's one bolt way at the bottom that I need to take off, and I believe I need to take off. So anyways, I had read somewhere might have to do that. To take this cover off, I'd have to take off the whole front of the engine. I wasn't going to do that at this point. So anyways, wanted to give you a heads up. Thanks. Okay, follow my light. Okay, so we got the valve covers back on. To be honest with you, it was a little bit of a pain in the butt. The right one went on a whole lot easier than the left one. Make sure you put the high temp RTV in the corners before you set the thing down, and walk around each of the screws as you tighten it down so you don't warp the valve cover. You can see on this side, also replace that. Our next step is to pull the spark plugs, put the new wires in, close up this part. I'm probably going to redress some of these cables, and we'll show you pictures of it as we go. Okay, so in order to replace the cables for the spark plugs, they went behind the engine and they tucked in underneath this pipe. This is one of your radiator pipes here, and I ended up having to take it off to be able to get those cables in there. It wasn't too hard. There's one bolt, the whole thing will slide out. There was this thing was attached to it here. So I got the wires back in there. You got to feed them around the back side of the engine. I'm getting ready to reinstall this at this point. Okay, we're back. As you can see, I've got the intake manifold. Everything is back on the engine. Again, the big pain in the butt. It's hard to see down in here, but this plastic, there's a hole in that I drilled in. I'll probably put something over that. But I got it all back together, except I still don't have the windshield wiper assembly on. And to be honest with you, for the little bit of effort it took to take this off, I'd suggest you take it off and get it out of your way. It makes so much, it helps so much getting back into this area, and I didn't have any issues getting the plenum back on. It went on very, very simply. So anyways, the car is running. I'm just going to install that back shield. Thank you. Okay, we got that back plate on and the cover, and we also put the wipers back on. Really, you know, for what it helps, that's like a 15-minute job, and it's definitely worth taking it off. Just so you know, this rubber piece comes off. It's got clips. You can just pull it up. Then there's clips underneath. Take the windshield wipers off. That exposes the motor. Take the motor out. Then take that whole flange. It runs right across there. You can see it right there. This black flange. Take it right off. All it is there's like 5 or 6 bolts and a piece of double-sided foam tape underneath there. And you know, getting that out of the way makes this job a whole lot easier. As you can see, it's back together. She's running, and I no longer have an oil leak in the back of the engine where it was leaking before. I also don't have the water leak that was in this on the engine. The spark plugs have been changed and the spark plug wires have been changed. So happy DIYing. It is, I probably have more than 8 hours into it. We started and stopped because it's winter time. We're doing it in the driveway and it was close to Christmas. We started and stopped many times. So we probably have close to 11 hours into the job, but I think well worth the savings. I think to do the 3 things or 4 things that I did, it would have probably been, you know, almost $2,000 worth of work. So I was able to do it. It was a little painful, but once you take it apart, you might as well get in there and do the work and get it done. Maybe in a year or so I'll do the timing belt on this one, but right now we're not going to go into that. Happy hunting. Hold on.